Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of the Midweek Fixture podcast. I'm Louis Sellin, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. So I'm sure many of you have seen or heard about the ongoing stadium problems at Oxford United, with it being ranked as one of the worst in England. This is due to only having 3 stands, terrible parking, and being in a strange and supposedly horrible area. But in this episode, I'm joined by an Oxford expert to tell us all about Oxford itself and what it's really like, and hopefully shine some positivity on the area. So sit back, relax, and welcome back to Midweek Fixture. So welcome, George. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Perfect. So I'm sure from the intro, people will be able to guess where you currently live. But tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Anything you think the audience should know, anything that's important.
I'm George. I live in Oxford. I'm not an Oxford United fan, and kind of weirdly, I'm a Cambridge United fan. Um, so support the kind of rivals. But I've lived in Oxford for a couple of years now, and it's a really beautiful city, and obviously dominated by the university. But
Yeah, I think that the uni is the big thing there, isn't it?
yeah, so I don't work for the university, um, but I do work in the centre. Say a lot of kind of events and things all revolve around the university. Say um, Oxford's known as the City of Dreaming Spires due to the kind of number of old buildings and particularly spires and towers in the town centre, most of which are either churches or associated with the university. So a little bit on the history. Oxford has 36 colleges at its university, and the earliest ones, the earliest evidence of teaching at the university is in 1096. But the university kind of really starts getting going in 1167 when English students are banned from the University of Paris, and so a lot of them are kind of returning home. And basically, Oxford kind of grows, and the number of colleges grow exponentially. So rather funnily, Cambridge is younger than Oxford, and that's because there was a big dispute between the townspeople and the students in 1209, and a lot of the students, to avoid this kind of conflict, moved to Cambridge, and that's where Cambridge University comes from. Um, so there is always this kind of like town university rivalry, which we call town versus gown. So this kind of manifests itself in several different ways, but kind of more um, now it's kind of more light-hearted. So there's town versus gown 10k race, and I do a bit of rowing myself. So there's a town versus gown rowing as well, which is quite good fun down on the Thames. All light-hearted, and there's a big kind of trip to the pub afterwards. So all good fun. Yeah, and so in terms of kind of landmarks in the city as well, I'm sure everyone's seen the big round library, which is the Radcliffe Camera, which is the centre of Oxford, like very, very pretty. Um, that's one of the few landmarks actually in the city that you can't go in because it's so popular, and they don't let any tourists go in. It's exclusively for students. And when my dad was here, he was saying that as well, you're not even allowed to go in it as a student unless your books specifically for your course are there as well. It's just so popular. Around it, there's kind of some of the prettier older colleges. So Brasenose is there, which is David Cameron's college, and then there's All Souls, and there's the Bodleian Library is there, and the Divinity School, um, Jesus, Exeter, all of these kind of like big old established colleges. Um, and Oxford has a reputation for prime ministers. So the rule tends to be if you want to win a Nobel Prize for politics, you go to Oxford. And if you want to win a Nobel Prize for science or for humanities, you go to Cambridge. So just some of the prime ministers who've been here in a kind of recent memory. Rishi Sunak was at Lincoln, Liz Truss was at Merton, and the current Emperor of Japan was at Merton for a term as
Oh,
well, Emperor Naruhito. Um, Johnson went to Balliol, Starmer went to St Edmund Hall, and Tony Blair went to St John's. Um, so yeah, there's quite a history of recent prime ministers having come to Oxford. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I mean,
Oh, I'm sure
either
that's a
side.
controversial one there.
So yeah, and a lot of those are kind of like very, very old traditional colleges. There are a couple of newer ones which are kind of a bit further out from the centre, but they're kind of there tends to be kind of like a big core group of middle ones in the centre that are really nice. Um, oh, excuse me, sorry. So you mentioned that the ground is a bit further out of the town, which is true, and it is not necessarily the nicest area, but pass over that. But if you are coming to Oxford, obviously the train comes straight into the centre, and Oxford is famous for its fantastic pubs,
Yes,
and for
very
some of its
important.
kind of yeah. So a lot of them again are like really really old. So the oldest one is the Bear Inn, which was the current building dates to 1774 and is a kind of very quaint little two room pub. And I have to admit, it is very hard to get into there sometimes. But the earliest record of a pub on site is 1242. So there's been continual drinking at the site for over 800 years. And the thing that's really interesting about the Bear at the moment is that in 1950s, the landlord started collecting ties. So there are over 4,500 ties pinned to the ceiling and the walls in the pub, and each of them is related to a different club or society from around the world. So
Well,
you can
that's
go in and he will be able to find your tie. So for me, there's a Leeds University tie there. There's a Leeds University Cycling Club tie. I'm sure there's an Oxford United tie. I'm sure there's a Brighton Hove Albion tie. And you can still, if you have a unique one, go and donate it essentially. So his collection is still growing. Um, but yeah, I haven't found a Warrington Wolves Rugby League tie yet, but
oh,
I'm sure one time I go in there, I'll have to try.
oh yeah.
Oxford has kind of a myriad of very good breweries around as well. So the real ale scene is very, very good in Oxford. So there's the Oxford Brewery and kind of Hook Norton Brewery. Oxfordshire has got kind of quite a good tradition of brewing. So there's a lot of local ones. The next one to talk about is I'm kind of going to talk about two pubs that are kind of very, very close to each other. So there's the Lamb and Flag and the Eagle and Child that sit opposite each other. So these are both kind of again very old pubs. And Tolkien of Lord of the Rings fame and C.S. Lewis of Narnia fame used to drink in these pubs. So when they were both lecturers in Oxford, lecturers or fellows or whatever their title was, when they were both in Oxford, they used to drink alternately in each pub. Um, and this was their kind of like big haunts. They were part of a group as well called the Inklings, which I don't think many of the other ones are very famous, but that used to write together. And there's a couple of stories and kind of urban legends about them. So the Eagle and Child at the moment is shut, but it used to have lots of kind of little rooms, and apparently the landlady wanted to ban them because this group of writers would just go and lock themselves in one of these little rooms so that they could write and just buy kind of one drink but sit there all night. So that's one of the urban legends there. The Eagle and Child has actually, I must say, has just been bought by an American investment firm that want to do it up and reopen it, but we'll see when that actually happens. But the Lamb Flag is open still and does have Elvish above the door as kind of like a nod to Tolkien. Another urban legend is that apparently, because Tolkien grew up in Oxford as well, apparently one night he got so drunk in one of the pubs that he hallucinated that goblins were trying to steal his wedding ring. And apparently, that the urban legend goes is that's where he got the idea for Lord of the Rings from.
Love that.
Don't know whether that's true or not. So the legend goes, and obviously around Oxford, there's everywhere you turn, there's something related to either one of them or a legend or somewhere they've been. Say, the Shire from Lord of the Rings is meant to be Oxfordshire kind of rolling countryside and all of those kind of things. So and the trees in university parks and things are meant to be Ents, and so there's just lots and lots that is kind of related to those two characters. Another kind of fun fact: apparently, when C.S. Lewis um, showed Tolkien the original manuscript for his Narnia story, Tolkien told him that it was rubbish and that he shouldn't ever publish it.
Oh wow.
So it's a good job that he did, I
Yeah.
guess. Um, Other kind of Oxford establishments that people might have heard of, say, Ben's Cookies was founded in Oxford. So we have the first Ben's Cookies in the covered market, and it is very good. And then we also have a chain that's exclusive to Oxford called George and Danver, which is a bagel shop which is open till 3 a.m. for those students coming back from a night out. And I can say I haven't eaten one at 3 a.m., but they are very good. I've eaten them at other times. Oxfam Oxfam was founded in Oxford as well, so it literally the Ox from Oxfam stands for Oxford. And the first charity shop that they ever had is on Broad Street, and it's still there, so you can still go in it. It's got its own little blue plaque, which is quite good fun. So yeah, Oxfam started here as well by a group of students. So I've kind of touched a little bit on C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, but Oxford, obviously, because of the university and things, has a massive kind of tradition of literary writers. Say, Lewis Carroll was here as well from, sorry, my Alice in Wonderland. So he was also here. So in terms of film, more recently, Oxford's been in Saltburn. That's where it's all set. The Golden Compass, Philip Pullman book, is all based in a kind of alternate reality, but it is Oxford, so you can go to a lot of the places there. For people who might be a bit older, Morse is all based in Oxford. So, in terms of Narnia, there is so that this is not a legend. This is absolutely true. So, next to the Radcliffe camera, there's a big church which is associated with the university called University Church of St Mary, and the original door comes out not in front of the church, but at the side of the church into a little alleyway. And if you turn right there, there's a lamppost that looks out towards the Radcliffe camera. So the story goes that one particularly snowy morning, C.S. Lewis comes out of the church and sees the lamppost, and that is the first scene from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when Lucy goes through the wardrobe and turns into a snowy morning and sees the lamppost and Mr. Tumnus, and on the door opposite there are a couple of Greek forms which are Mr. Tumnus, which is quite good fun. So that's one that I always tell on the on the tour when people come to visit. But that one is verified. That's absolutely true. That's where that all comes from. So you can literally go to Narnia in Oxford. I'm sure people of our age as well. Harry Potter was a massive thing when we were growing up. So loads of the locations for Harry Potter are in Oxford. So just a few of them that people might remember. Say the scene where Draco is turned into a ferret in the Goblet of Fire, I think.
So
That is in that's in New College. The tree is still there. You can go and sit by the tree, which is quite good fun, which I have done. The Divinity School in the Bodleian Library, that's used in loads of things, but you will recognise it most from the dancing scene in the Goblet of Fire, where Ron is told to dance with Professor McGonagall. It's also used as the hospital in a lot of scenes. And then a couple of kind of lighter ones. So in the first film, when they walk up the stairs and see Professor McGonagall for the first time, that's in Christchurch, that stairway, and you can go and see it. That actually leads up to the dining hall, and the dining hall is also isn't actually the Great Hall, but is the reference point. It's what they used for the Great Hall, say. And then the Duke Humphreys Library, unfortunately, you can't go in it again because it's so historic. But that is used as the library, like the restricted section and the other kind of scenes for the library. That's used throughout the films. So yeah, Oxford has this kind of like massive tradition, and loads of films are filmed here. I think it is used as kind of a bit of a revenue stream for the colleges. So some of them that you will have seen in things, say the Corpus Christi, Christchurch, New College does an awful lot. So if you see a scene and it's in a college in Oxford, chances are it's probably in New College. Magdalen College, sorry, do quite a lot as well. but yeah, Saltburn as well. You can actually go and sit at the table that Jacob Elordi goes and sits at in Saltburn in the pub. It's in the King's Arms. I have been in there as well and sat at that table. That pub is also famous for its Scotch eggs and sausage rolls and pies. That pub. So
Important on a match day, that is.
that's it. That's a good one before a game. Um, so I'll kind of finish with a couple of um, Oxford kind of traditions. Oxford's kind of quite a quirky place, so it kind of has these like very strange traditions. A bit kind of like the punting, I suppose, is quite strange, and the Oxford and Cambridge do that, but that's a very nice day out. Um, so the first one I talk about is May Day, which is so on the 1st of May at 6 a.m., the choir from Magdalen College climb the tower and sing sing basically a service. Um, and the honest truth is we have no idea why they do this, and we have no idea when it started. So, but what they do is they shut all the streets in front, and they get about 25,000 people to come and see it. And there's a kind of big day of festivities for May Day. So I went last year, so the students tend to stay up all night and turn up drunk in the morning, whereas not being a student, I went to bed and got up again. But yeah, and it's a really great event and it's really lovely. Like the choir is like world class and the music's brilliant and it's a really nice thing for everyone to just get up and see. Luckily, the weather was quite nice, I might add. Yeah, so we have no idea when it started, but the only reference we have, the earliest reference, is in the 17th century when a college rector paid £10 to keep £10 to the choir to, and I quote, keep up an ancient tradition of May Day of vocal and instrument music on the top of the tower. Well, that's the only reference we have. There's loads of events like this all around the Cotswolds, which are much, much older. So it is likely that it's hundreds of years older than that, maybe even pagan. We don't really know. But yeah, May Day is a good one. The next one I'll talk about is Beating the Bounds. So this is on Ascension Day, which is meant to be the day that Jesus rose into the heavens. So parishioners and clergy go around the city and they mark the edges of the parish of Oxford, and they do this by hitting stone markers with a willow stick. So there's a procession. There's usually about 50 people do it, 50, 100 people do it. Some of these are kind of quite obvious. So there's one on like the side of Brasenose College and things like that. But then some of them have been kind of swallowed by the expansion of modern Oxford. So, and because it's tradition and by law you're allowed to do it, I think. One of them is in the staff room at TK Maxx, and one of them is in the ladies' wear in Marks and Spencer's, and one of them's at the rear entrance of Boots. So, and you are absolutely allowed to do this as a townsperson. You can just turn up on the day and they give you a stick and you're allowed to do it. So yeah, you're allowed to go into the stock room of TK Maxx and go and hit a stone to prove that that is still where the parish is. And the last one, which is a good justifier for being late. So there's something called Oxford time. So Oxford, so this comes from when in 1852 we get Greenwich Mean Time and everything in Britain has moved on to single time stamp, and that was done so that the railways ran on time. So that if you left London at 12, you didn't get to Birmingham at like 10 a.m. and go back in time. But Oxford being the kind of traditional place that it was, the university wanted to keep its original time because in terms of kind of longitudinal lines, we are 5 minutes behind London, like technically speaking. So Oxford still has events that start at 5 past the hour because they want to keep the original Oxford time. So we are technically 5 minutes and 2 seconds behind. So if you ever get anything in Oxford that starts at 5 past the hour, that is why, because it's on Oxford time. So a lot of the church services and university things. So if you have a lecture in Oxford, it quite often starts at 5 past the hour. I have experienced this. I went to a lecture about hiking the other day, which was a public lecture, and that did start at indeed 5 past the hour. this is also thought to be the inspiration behind the White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland, who's always late. So it's kind of that's one of the things. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a rundown of Oxford and its kind of quirkiness.
I mean, fabulous. I mean, there's so many reasons there to visit. Go before a game, have a look
Absolutely.
around, look at all the history. I mean, it sounds much better than many match days that I've been to. It's just that, it's that. A lot of people see it as you go to the football, you have a drink, that's it. But go to the city, go to the town, have a look around, and I'm sure you'll find many, many things that you've talked about. And the food and the drink sounds amazing.
Yeah, Oxford's a wonderful place, and it's a lovely place to as well tie up with a weekend. So if you want a weekend away, it's a really wonderful place that you can do both. You can do the football and you can stay as well. We do get a lot of tourists around at all times of year. I mean, even now in the autumn, the trees are all turning, and it's a very green city. So there's a lot of trees around. There's a lot of parks and things like that. So it really is a very, very pretty place to be.
Well, one final thing, I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit here. Oxford take on Watford on Friday at Vicarage Road. What's your prediction? Give us a score prediction for the game.
Well, I think that Watford have been a Premier League team a few years in a row, so I think that not for a while now, but I think that Watford and at home should have a little bit too much. I'm going to go, even though Oxford have been playing well, haven't they? They've been up there, so I think 2-1 to Watford. I
2
think.
on Watford. 2 on Watford. Well, I'll review that next week and see what you say. See if it's right.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. It's really interesting to me, and I'm sure everyone that watches this is going to find it interesting and hopefully come and visit Oxford.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. You'll probably find me in one of those pubs I've recommended.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next week for another video. Adios. See you later.